growing up, 70s, 80s, and stuff like that, how much was church in your life?
I would say it was a regular part of my life. I actually went to a Christian school, and we had Bible class every single day, chapel on Wednesdays, and then there was church on Sunday. In my early 20s, here's what I'll tell you. Where you live matters. Like, you can think, if I move to this area that's not as religious, I'll be fine. Mm-hmm. Oh, my gosh. I feel like I've totally been impacted. Still my choice. Yeah. But before I moved here, I was hitting church several times a week. There was Sunday, there was Wednesday Bible study. There might be something. It was kind of part of the culture, and you built your lunches around it and events around it. Yep. It was everything. And you move here. And I think what I struggled to find here is something that felt culturally relevant, but also had moved with the times.
Okay.
And when I say moved with the times, I think that some folks need to get that sitting for 2 hours, it's kind of different. Our attention spans have gone down a way. I think we do need to evolve with the culture somewhat.
In military school, as you all know, I went to military school for 7 years.
What was that like, religion?
6 days a week of going to chapel.
Wow.
5 days a week, Monday through Friday, going to chapel. Saturday was a day off from that. And then Sunday, you had your big 2 hour in chapel. I went for 7 years, 6 days a week. And I know even now when I go back home to Chicago in the Midwest, I see less and less family members going to church like they used to. But growing up in the 70s and 80s in Chicago, But by the way, I don't know if some of y'all really, because Chef, I know y'all delegation don't know nothing about this, but
delegation.
What I mean by that is, Chef, listen, man, some of us went to church on Sunday, and we were there for 7+ hours. You understand? Oh, come on now. What?
Y'all have 3-day weekends or what?
No, man. We was in church all day, getting there around 9, 10 o'clock, not leaving until 5 o'clock. Text it right now if you were ever a part of one of those churches.
What do you eat?
Huh?
What do you eat? You sit there and you suck it up after.
They have food there. You know, you have some of those that have food.
Or they'll let you have an hour break to eat, and then you go back into church.
Whenever I think about going to church, to this day, if I go to church, I need some chicken. Growing up on Sundays, I literally had chicken every time I went to church.
So let me ask you this. Going back to that 6 days a week, and I'm going somewhere here.
Come on.
Would you change that?
No. Absolutely
I wouldn't either.
Not.
I can honestly tell you.
Absolutely not.
When I was negotiating for a job, I relied on some of the stories I learned from the Bible. I still remember the songs, like about how, like the Joshua and Caleb, being able to see like what's possible with God. Like I remember all of those stories that still encourage me. And I honestly, one of my big regrets is feeling like my kids I did not give them that experience to its fullest extent.
The only difference is today I just don't talk about it, right? I feel uncomfortable. I don't really like to talk about how I believe and how I feel to other people. It is personal with me, right? So
let's get honest though. I mean, a lot of people view churches as political now. And church should not be political. It should be moral. But when it becomes political, then...
Hey, Chef.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something, bro.
Listen.
I grew up in a black church.
It's political back then.
What? That's all it was, my boy. As a matter of fact, the only time I would see the politicians that didn't look like me when it was time for the election. You know what I mean? And Reverend Gales would have them come in and, hey, before you guys leave, let's go ahead and we're going to pass the trays around and let's go ahead and donate some money for this person's visit.
Let's talk about our roots for a minute. Let's talk about I just heard someone say this the other day, that the Black Lives Matter movement, and this regarding African Americans, it was the first movement out of the black community that did not come from the church. It did not come from, when you look back on the movements over time, they came from the church. Martin Luther King was a pastor.
Yeah.
I mean, so honestly, I think it's time for us to lean into church. And if your pastor is saying stuff that is not in alignment with what God's number one thing was, which was to love God and love your neighbor as yourself, judge lest you be judged, like judge not lest you be judged. Go ahead.
The most impactful boycott that to this day that we talk about, and when people were talking about Black History Month, the first name out of your mouth and why Rosa Parks and what happened with Rosa Parks and the Montgomery boycott, I want everybody to know where it started. It started in church. Where it ended, the 381 days that boycott lasted, it ended in church.
Church, also where folks have been attacked. And it's been, so I guess my point is, it has been the heart of so much political and activities in our country.
A little step further, in those churches, speaking of spies, since we talked about spies, some of those spies would tell the plan to the Klan and to the white supremacists about what was happening. And so, if you guys don't do history, then do history then. A lot of those plans were found out because there were spies inside of those churches during the civil rights movement.